The story of White Cloud looking for a husband. The vast Jew sea is stirring. Rarely does the wind leave the sea calm. But no matter how strong the wind blows, no matter how deep the waves dig, until now people have never seen them. It is said that, a long time ago, on the shore of the Jew Sea there was a kingdom ruled by a powerful king. The king issued orders to 10 ministers. Each minister controlled 10 generals. Each general had thousands of soldiers under his command, and the entire population of that country obeyed the soldiers and number 39 orders. Therefore, in this country, no one dares to do or say anything other than what the people above tell them. Even the king and number 39's daughter cannot do what she wants. Because she had reached the age where girls began to think about marriage, because she was very beautiful, very wise and gentle, many young men from all over came to propose. For 2 years, the king drove away one person after another and, during that time, the princess lived in a small palace painted with gold and mosaic at the end of the royal garden. She gently played the moon harp, dreamily looking at a high mountain, its top covered with white clouds in the distance. People call that mountain Van Sun. On top of that mountain lived the only man who was not afraid of the mighty king. The king and number 39's soldiers avoided him, and even the king and number 39's advisors were careful not to anger him. People whispered admiration when talking about him, saying they saw him riding a white horse, from which people gave him the nickname Anquat, White Leader Anquat. One day, the king said to the princess, "I just chased away a traitor from a neighboring country. Its attitude is too obsequious. Surely he knows that he is inferior to me in both fame and power. I despise a son-in-law who is afraid of me. And what if he isn and #39 afraid of his father?" The princess asked gently, "Perhaps I will hate a son-in-law who is not afraid of me," said the king. "Until now, no one has survived when I got angry." The princess thoughtfully returned to her private room and took out her moon harp. "And quat, O people of Van Sun, please come and take me away. The sound of the moon harp is sweet. Your eyes are the beautiful white clouds in the summer sky, your eyes are the wild black clouds of the hurricane. Your horse and number 39's hooves echo on the sky. The road is filled with white clouds, your handsome horse neighs wildly in the overcast sky. The soldiers flee, the general trembles in fear before you. Come quickly, you dreamer, come and take this poor girl away." And quat. Suddenly a funny voice came from above. "What does your instrument say, princess?" The princess was surprised, raised her head and saw a small magpie. He heard clearly she blushed and replied, "I will go and tell him." The bird laughed loudly. "Dawn and number 39's, Dawn and number 39's, tell him." The princess begged, but the bird flew away. As it fluttered above Van Sun, the magpie circled 3 times above the white leader and number 39's head. "What and number 39's the matter, evil?" he asks. "Get on your horse quickly and go find the princess," he was panting. "She is waiting for you." "Which princess are you talking about?" He was surprised. "Of course it and number 39's our princess," the bird explained while smoothing her feathers. "Princess of the great kingdom on the seashore of Jew. She is the prettiest and most adorable princess I have ever met." Bach thought for a moment and then asks, still in doubt, "And will you marry me?" Obviously I and number 39 am not making this up. The bird was offended. However, there is a but. Her father was a powerful and brutal lord, everyone feared him. I and number 39 am not afraid of that, Bach finished, jumping on the back of the white horse and, before the magpie smoothed the last feather, he disappeared over the horizon. At that moment, the princess prepared to return to the palace. She sighed, put down the guitar and left the house. At that time a strong wind blew. That wind took the shape of a mighty knight in the clouds. The girl and number 39's heart seemed to stop beating. A white horse descended from the sky. Bach got off his horse and slowly approached the princess. Both he felt his heart clench with emotion at such a beautiful, slender young woman. "Princess, are you willing to marry me?" he asked seriously. The princess looked at him gently, and Bach smiled back. She approached him. He said, "You won and number 39. Regret it, will you?" "Won and number 39. You miss your homeland?" The princess said nothing, just nodded. He picked her up, jumped on his horse, and in a moment people could no longer hear or see them. When they learned that the princess had disappeared from the palace, everyone was in an uproar. The king sent his best spies everywhere, but it seemed his daughter had been swallowed by the earth. Soldiers patrolled the country day and night, until a secret reporter reported that sometimes people living at the foot of Van Sun Mountain heard the princess and number 39's gentle singing coming from the white clouds. White echoes down. "Your Majesty, surely the white leader had the audacity to kidnap the princess." The secret reporter spoke while panting. The courtiers were afraid. The king was angry like crazy. However, he was afraid of having to duel with a mighty warrior like Bach. He felt humiliated, so day and night he thought of nothing other than finding a way to destroy Bach. He was thinking hard, and all the advisors, generals, and secret reporters were also thinking hard like him. Finally, one day, a minister came up with an idea. He bowed his head and told the king, "Your Majesty, when it cannot be otherwise, you must use stratagem." Surely the wise emperor will take that opinion seriously. "Say what you advise quickly," the king replied impatiently. So the counselor presented the plan. That very day, fake messengers were sent to Van Sun. After several days of traveling, the messengers reached the top of the mountain, and Bach came out to meet them. Seeing his majestic and determined stature, even the bravest messengers shivered. They bowed respectfully, and the eldest spoke up. "Sir, we bring good news. Our beloved king has heard much about your bravery, and he wishes to meet you. He invited him, as his kind son, to come to the royal palace to visit him." "What, Aaron and 39? You angry with me?" Bach asks. At first he was angry, but now he is no longer angry, another messenger added. He was sad because he missed his daughter. He really wants to meet her, the third person added. "This is impossible," Bach said decisively. But the messengers did not allow themselves to be sent back for nothing. "The king is very sad," the envoy bowed his head and said. "People are getting old." "The queen was sad and fell ill," the second person added immediately. "The queen may die of sadness," the third person lamented. All this makes Bach unhappy. He turned to the princess and saw her crying. "Do you want to visit your parents?" He leaned over and asked her. The princess nodded, so she turned back to the messengers and told them, "Okay, we will follow you." Everything at the palace was ready for a solemn reception. The king himself went to welcome the two guests. The princess hugged and kissed her mother, while the king asked Bach to follow him into the banquet room. Everyone drank a lot to celebrate Bach and number 39's beautiful relationship with the princess. Bach was very happy with that warm hospitality, and drank one cup after another, until finally the wine won out and he fell into a deep sleep. It was the moment the king had been waiting for. He signaled, and two magicians appeared. In the blink of an eye, they tied Bach up with iron chains. The princess cried loudly, but following a royal command, locked the door and locked her up. Then the magicians threw the chained Bach into the Jiu Sea. They recited a spell so that the sea would never dry up and Bach would never escape. The poor princess cried her eyes out in prison and no one seemed to care about her. But when the palace was quiet again and everyone was asleep, the princess and number 39's former maid found the key to the private room and released her. "Princess, run away quickly." People tied Bach up and threw him into the Jiu Sea. Who knows, they may also be plotting to harm the princess. "I will open the secret door at the end of the garden. Run far away, so the king Juan and number 39's find you." But when she learned that Bach was in trouble, the princess first ran to Jiu Beach. She reached out to the dark waves and called out to Bach, but no one answered her. She cried, prayed to the gods and the blue sky to release her beloved husband to her, but the night was silent and the moonlight continued to shine on the water surface. As the pink fingers of dawn appeared in the east, the princess knelt on the shore. Her shirt was soaked with tears. Suddenly, a wing lightly brushed against her hair, and a familiar voice rang out in the clear morning. "It and number 39's a magpie. There and number 39's no use crying, princess. It and number 39's better to ask people how to get Bach out of this sea of bitterness. You and number 39's rewrite. Evil is kind." The princess expressed her gratitude to the bird. Suddenly she felt hopeful and determined. She set out, without hesitation. She traveled everywhere, for days and weeks, climbing unfamiliar mountains, wandering in desolate swamps, losing her way in deep forests, helpless, hungry and thirsty, her clothes tattered. Everywhere she went, she asked everyone she met to see if they knew how to save her husband who had been thrown into the sea by magicians. People lamented her situation, shed a tear for her, gave her food and shelter, but no one could help her save Bach. The poor princess could bear it no longer. Her body was exhausted, her heart was broken, and she could n&39's find anyone who could give her useful advice. One day she saw an old man sitting on a stone pillar under a tree. She bowed politely to him, asking him the eternal question, the question she had asked thousands of times to thousands of people. The old man looked at her intently, and when he saw the troubled look on her pretty face, he felt pity. "You said he was at the bottom of the Jiu Sea, right? The only way to get there is to drain the ocean." The princess burst into tears. Come on, Tears 1 and number 39's solve anything," the old man mumbled thoughtfully. "Crying and harming yourself and not being able to help the person you love. Let and number 39's see, I have an idea. To the east of us here, over there, somewhere in the mountains, there is. At least, that and number 39's What people say. That God can lend me the wind. I heard that he stored wind in 7 bottles. If he would let me borrow it, that would be great. You can take them to the beach, open all the bottles at once, and that and number 39's it. But sir, what can all that wind do to the sea? The princess sighed. What can be done? Then you will see. The wind will shake the sea, make waves, and carry away thousands of tears. In short, the wind will dry up the sea. There will only be sand left, the old man said enthusiastically. Can you imagine what all the winds on earth could do, if they blew together, in the same place, at the same time? The princess was so happy that she suddenly felt as strong as 10 weak princesses like her. She warmly thanked the old man and headed towards the mountains to the east. She had to walk a long time to reach those mountains, and it took even longer to reach the top of the mountain, where the wind god lived. After passing, the wind whipped, roared, and hissed in her ears, stopping her from moving forward. Finally, gathering all her strength, the princess climbed to the top of the mountain. An old man with a long white beard sat against a rock. Near him were 7 bottles covering his mouth. What are you looking for here? And how did I get here? The wind god frowned and asked sternly. The princess sat on a rock and told her story. She was so tired, and all this had caused her so much pain, that her voice grew weaker and weaker until she could no longer say anything. She sat there, closing her eyes and letting the tears fall down her hands. The wind god said nothing, trapping the last wind still running across the field in a bottle. The scene became quiet, the sunset slowly descended. The princess still cried when the wind god spoke, but this time his voice was unusually kind. So you want me to lend you 7 bottles of wind? Do you know they contain all the wind in this world? Can I lend such an object to humans? The princess didn't and #39 T cry anymore, but didn't and #39 T say a word. She didn't and #39 T dare look at the wind god anymore. I don't and number 39 T know anyone who dares to sacrifice like you, the wind god continued, his voice serious, and you don't and number 39 T deserve to suffer so much. I will lend you the wind bottles, but after that you must return them to me. You must remember that you must not open the bottles before reaching the Jew beach, and must open all the bottles at the same time so that the wind has enough strength to reach the bottom of the sea. The princess was so happy. No longer know what to do first. The wind god helped her wrap the bottles of wind in a shawl that she tied in 4 corners. The princess thanked him very much and quickly returned to the old path. Night had fallen, but she did not want to rest at all. She stumbled in the dark night, walking very slowly, but when the eastern sky turned pink, she left the mountains behind and headed straight for the Jew Sea. But the road is still long. It seemed to her that the road would not get any shorter. She walked like that for many days, day and night, never stopping, and finally came to a familiar area. There was only a very short distance left to reach Jew Beach, but suddenly she had no strength left. She felt unable to take another step. She had to rest, even if just for a moment. At that moment, she saw a large, smooth rock a little way from the roadside. A rock seemed to be waiting for her. The princess told herself to lie down there for a while and then get back on the road right away. She carefully placed the bundle containing the wind bottles at her feet, lay down on the rock, and immediately fell asleep. During that time, the king searched for his daughter all over the country, but no one discovered her journey. The king and number 39's scouts then occupied all the roads leading to the Jiu Sea, while others searched the surrounding areas. Unfortunate coincidence brought 2 spies to the rock where the princess was sleeping. Without making a sound, they examined the princess and number 39's bundle. They curiously opened the cork of a bottle and gasped. ! The wind shook the trees violently. The 2 spies were scared, but decided to secretly open all the bottles. First they recapped the bottle that they just released all the air and put back in place. Next they opened the second bottle. The wind roared, tilting the entire neighboring hill. They quickly opened the third bottle and a tornado literally stripped the trees of their branches and leaves. The strange thing is that it didn't and #39 bring them along. At that moment the princess stirred, the 2 spies were frightened and ran away. The princess opened her eyes and realized she had fallen asleep. She quickly sat up, grabbed the bundle and ran as fast as she could towards the sea. On the vast ocean surface, small waves roll lazily. Reaching the shore, the princess stopped. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds. She whispered to herself, "And quat. Be patient a little longer, you and number 39, about to see him again, and quat." She took out the wind bottles, arranged them in a row by the water and number 39's edge and opened the first bottle and then the second. The sea began to vibrate, roar, and waves as high as mountains emerged. The princess quickly opened the third and fourth bottles. A giant column of spraying water rose into the middle of the sea, rising higher and higher. This water column seems to want to lift all the seawater into the sky. The princess quickly opened the remaining 3 bottles. But from these bottles there is no wind that can attack the Jiu Sea. There and number 39's nothing left in the bottle. The princess stood frozen in despair. She looked at the empty bottles and she knew that, from now on, she could never free her husband. She quietly collapsed on the beach, watching the sea slowly calm down. She was petrified, feeling like she was dying. And at dawn on the 3rd day, the sun rose over the Jiu Sea. The princess lay sprawled on the shore, lifeless, only her eyes still looking toward the deep water, where her lover rested forever. Since then, many years have passed, but people still talk about this. And if a white cloud appears on the horizon, people will say, "And quat. That is a white cloud looking for a husband. It will definitely be windy. And quat." Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.